Hey, how's it going? So today I have a bit of an interesting video here for you. I have been using a 1080 Zotac, about 8 gigabytes of VRAM. This is one of my favorite video cards, and I upgraded recently to 5090. Also Zotac, but they're not sponsoring me or anything. Um, that was what was available for me. It was either the Asus Astral, which was $700 more, or the Zotac. So I'm pretty happy with the Zotac. Um, this is quite a big increase in processing power in terms of 1080 versus the 5090. But I just wanted to run some tests for you guys first on the 1080 8 gigabytes and then on the 5090 to see if it is actually worth it for you to upgrade to one of these very expensive graphics cards. And the shocking no, I do not recommend to upgrade. If you're just doing LLM inference, don't upgrade, please. Get like a 5060, 16 gigabytes, you'll be very happy. You don't need a 5090. So let's just go through the benchmarks. Um, I have at the top over here curated number of benchmarks that are pretty close to today's release date. So we got like the liquid LFM, which is a very small model, 1.2 billion parameters, and it's very good at summarizing stuff. So if you need a parsing model, this is very great. It basically, if you have a bunch of text and you need a summary, this is what you're going to use. It runs at about 111 tokens per second on the 1080 and 294 tokens per second on the 5090. That is like triple the amount of tokens per second. So it could be beneficial if you have a very large body of text to go ahead and use that. And the amount of VRAM that this uses is only 4 gigabytes of VRAM. So it comfortably fits on our 1080 as well as the 5090. That's the baseline. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you the next one, which is the Qwen 3 vision model. So this is not MOE. Basically, it's not um, partially activated. The full 4 billion is activated all at once. And why is it a visual model is it can see images, whereas the other LLMs or other open source ones, they are not able to process image data. So if you're going to take a picture of something and paste it in, only this VL model is able to see what it is, extract that information, and then talk to you about it. So if you have like a receipt or something and you scan it in here, click, the attach button, it's going to be able to read it. Okay, so data 37 tokens per second. Tokens is basically words. We'll just say like equivalent in words per second, just as keep that in mind. And the 5090, 290 tokens per second, that is very fast, a very large increase. This is the single most best case scenario where you have such a big increase in tokens per second. We also see GPT-OSS, which is actually released from OpenAI. So OpenAI released a couple of models. One of them is the 20 billion parameter, which fits comfortably on 8 gigabytes. And it also fits onto 31 gigabytes. But because this is a mixture of expert model, it only partially activates. It's not full 20. I don't remember what the split is, but I know it's not full 20 that loads onto your card. That's why we're able to run it comfortably in 8 gigabytes. Whereas you can load the full thing onto the 5090, so you get a massive speed boost. It's not sharded or split between your CPU RAM and video memory RAM. Oh yeah, 3.6 active. See, I knew I had it somewhere. 3.6 billion active. The interesting one that most people would use is like a Qwen 3 30 billion parameter model. I feel this is like the sweet spot in IQ as well as performance. It is A3B, so only 3 billion of the parameters are active. So you can still run it at like 17 tokens per second on your 8 gigabyte video card and offload the rest to your system RAM. Whereas I was almost able to fit it fully on the 5090. I believe I was off by like a gigabyte. And because I was off by like a gigabyte, this really slowed me down to about 30 tokens per second. Whereas, it's almost there, but we're still waiting for the slowest thing, which is the CPU and RAM. And it really slowed it down, unfortunately. So if I was able to probably reduce the quantization, this would have been a massive speed boost, but I made sure not to reduce quantization because I wanted to see what would happen. Also, for coding models, we need a lot of accuracy. We don't want Q4 or lower. We want Q8, BF16, because we want to make sure that our code is accurate and works. Okay. So for GPT-OSS, I have no choice but to use MXFP4 because that is what it's trained in. It is about 61 gigabytes in size, so only half of it can fit on the 5090. But because it is slower to parse the layers between the 5090 and CPU, and when I talk about layers, I mean there's multiple parts to a model. There are experts, which is called the weights, and then there's the layers of the model. So when we go to as an example here, we got Minimax. If we go ahead and go to settings here, you can see that the GPU offload is maxed out at 62 out of 62. But I've clicked the force model expert weights to CPU. So that means most of it is loaded to CPU and only the layers or like the high processing information that you really need is on the GPU. And so as you can see, we're only using 14 gigabytes out of the full 113 on the video card. All right, so let's just say hello to Minimax. While that's doing that, we'll continue to analyze. As you can see, once we get to very large models, like 230 billion parameters, they do not fully fit on the GPU, and most of the processing is happening on the CPU as well as the system RAM. So the token per second, it will not change, even if your video card is like very, very fast one, because we cannot offload even like a RTX Pro 6000. It has 96 gigabytes of VRAM, costs like $12,000. Because we cannot fully load the model onto that video card, our model is 113 gigabytes, not 96. The processing will still happen on the CPU and slow everything down. So you're going to have a very poor experience actually. You will have spent $12,000 where you could have just bought this guy, which is like a couple hundred or something. So I just want to let you know that if you're going to go ahead and spend a lot of money on a computer and you're going to think that you can, run very big models at super fast speeds because you have the latest RTX Pro 6000, as long as that model doesn't fit fully on the GPU, you're going to be wasting a lot of money. So you would probably need two RTX Pro 6000. Yeah, so here I have a quick example for you. I've been using my Xeon machine. The 56 was it Xeon 8480 engineering sample with 512 gigabytes of RAM and two 3090s, which is a total of 48 gigabytes of VRAM to run Kimi K2 thinking. Now, I would not be putting a 5090 into that system because all of the models that I would be running are very, very large. 1 trillion parameters, like DeepSeek's, Minimax M2, but at like PF16. So those are very big models and they cannot fit onto one video card. So what I'm looking to put into my server is enough video memory so that I can offload the layers. And when we want to approximate how much VRAM the layers would take, as a rule of thumb, I would just say look at the active parameters of that model. So for this instance, Kimi K2 is a 1 trillion parameter model, but it has only 32 billion active parameters. I'm correct. So what we're doing now is making sure that we can load a 32 billion parameter model at whatever quantization into our VRAM. That's like the general math I'm trying to do. And so here, a 30 billion parameter model is about 34 gigabytes. So you'd be stretching it very close. And because it's not exact, because like some of the layers will be high precision, some of them low precision, it's not exact. You would probably be able to load the Kimi K2 thinking at IQ4 or IQ3 onto the 5090, just barely. Whereas onto two video cards with 48 gigabytes in total, it goes on smoothly. I have extra room for context size, which is how much how much um, how much tokens I can load into the model. And this is like a whole different topic, but let's just stick to this. And I would be able to get about 10 tokens per second on the 5090. So between like 8 or 10 tokens per second. And this will not change even if I get like a 4090, 3090, or I believe like 450, 60 Ti's. There will probably be around 10 tokens per second because on CPU only, I'm getting 6 to 7 tokens per second. So we're increasing the tokens by a bit because part of the model is loaded on the video memory. Okay, so that's my spiel about choosing video cards and testing the various models sizes for your new video card. So if you are looking at the 5090 and going like, hey, I need that right now, maybe look again, see what you need it for. And if it's very large models, just go for something cheaper. You could spend that money on like an Epic server. You could get more RAM. You can load like very large models and still get the same performance. All right, let's talk about image generation. So this is what you primarily want the 5090 for. That and like any other like uh, engineering or like running Blender, everything that uses the core of the 5090 and not just memory, that is where you want it. So for image generation, on a 1024 by 1024 image, upscaled by 1.5 to whatever that goes to, it took me 9 minutes and 32 seconds on the 1080. And it took me about 38 seconds on the 5090, which is about 20 times speed up, if I'm correct, about 20 times. Also, the 5090, because it has so much more VRAM, it can do large images, like 2048 by 2048. And I haven't tested video generation, but I believe it should be the same kind of speed up because you're loading everything into video memory and processing all of it there instead of chunking it out step by step. All right, so that's pretty much it. Those are my 2 cents on purchasing a 5090 over an older graphics card. And if there are other YouTubers that are saying, go ahead and purchase it, or, you know, depending on the system that you're using it for, it might not be worth it. So just so you know, the current system I'm using here is LM Studio on Windows, which is very user friendly. It has a backend called Llama.cpp. And to run high performance VLLM, you would need to use Linux, I believe. And the setup for that is complicated. So, depending on how much experience you have, how much headache you want, you would probably be using something very easy like LM Studio to go ahead and chat with an LM, right? So this is kind of like the easy version and what kind of speed you would be getting. And obviously, if you had VLLM, you would not be looking at CPU inference at all. You would not be able to run Minimax M2 230 billion parameters on an 8 gigabyte graphics card. That would just not be possible because VLLM is mostly GPU driven. So you would need to have enough graphics cards to run the full 113 gigabytes worth of weights on the GPU. All right, so that's another context for you guys. So I know this is probably very high end and a lot of information, but I just wanted to share with you guys what the differences are, and you can always probably just ask AI at the bottom there to explain some things for you if I have a bit of a technical terms. All right, so thank you for watching again, and talk to you next time. Bye.